everyone. Welcome to the MedCurity podcast. My name is Mel, and I'm here today with a very special guest, Bidemi Ologunde. Bidemi, why don't you start off by introducing yourself and telling us a little about you?
Thank you, Mel. It's always nice to chat with you and talk to you. My name is Bidemi Ologunde. I also go by Bid. I'm a cybersecurity practitioner. I'm a privacy subject matter expert. I'm based in Florida in the US. I work primarily in cybersecurity, and I say primarily because I do a lot of things that are tangential to security, privacy, law enforcement investigations, and so on. So to summarize, my name is Bid. I'm a cybersecurity expert.
Thanks, Bid. That's great. You know, being that you have so much expertise and all across the board, you know, cybersecurity is a hot topic, and one of the things that goes along with that is privacy. They go hand in hand, and um, I'm curious what your thoughts are on how they coincide, and what kinds of things that you think people need to think about whenever they're just going about their everyday life.
Yeah, so the concept of privacy has slowly become eroded. And I say eroded because ever since smartphones were introduced into society, um, slowly and gradually, privacy has become less and less of a priority. Simply because for every smartphone user, there is a smartphone company that is advertising the sale of that smartphone as something that would make their lives easier. And every smartphone has apps on them to make you enjoy or get as much functionalities from that smartphone as possible. Each of those apps on that smartphone collect tons of data. And over time, initially, smartphones and apps would basically collect the minimal amount of data. But over time, the app developers and the companies behind those apps realize, well, we can come up with this new business model. Someone or a group of people can advertise on the apps, and then we can also make money from that. So they are making money from selling the apps. They're making money from paying the smartphone to basically host the app on that marketplace, and also making money from people advertising to the app users. So all of these business models come with a cost, which is people's privacy. If an app developer comes to me and say, well, I want to be able to put this app on a device, I would need to be able to collect data about location, data about how often people use these apps so that I can turn around and sell it to a company that is interested in putting products in front of people. Of course, the company would want to know what time of the day someone turns on this app so that the first thing they see or the second thing they see is their product on this app on this smartphone. A flip phone doesn't have apps that are, I guess, ads can be placed on them. All of this comes down to smartphones that are able to host apps and so on and so forth. So bringing it full circle, um, the smartphone evolution made privacy something that has become something on the back burner. Um, Security, on the other hand, um, doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with privacy. And what I mean by that is if you want to be more secure, then your privacy has to be very low. If you want to be less secure, then your privacy has to be quite high. So you cannot have phones with 50 apps on them and expect to have your privacy locked down. No, that's never going to happen. So, long story short, privacy and security, they don't go hand in hand. Privacy has become something more of on a back burner ever since technology revolution, smartphones become more proliferated, and now we see AI learning on everyone's data, which again is another privacy risk entirely. So hope I'm able to encapsulate that concept very well.
Yeah, I think so. So what about as far as like smart devices? You know, you have your smart watch, like maybe your Apple Watch connects to the app on your phone and it's, you know, collecting your heart rate and your exercise and all of that. But then there's all sorts of other devices that all connect. I mean, I imagine that would kind of create even bigger gaps in, you know, privacy security. But are those also as susceptible to being hacked or being used by threat actors?
Yes, yeah. So there's this thing known as IoT, Internet of Things, which is basically where a fridge is connected to the internet, an Aura ring that you wear on your fingers to track your sleep and your heart rate and so on, and your blood pressure is connected to your phone, which is connected to the internet. Your thermostat at home is connected to the internet. Um, your basically everything and anything that a battery can fit in is able to be connected to the internet. And what all these devices are doing are collecting data, sending it to either a phone or an iPad, or even sending it straight to the cloud in the case of driveway cameras. So that wherever you are in the country or wherever you are in the world, you travel somewhere on vacation, you can view your driveway from your location to know, okay, nothing is going wrong at home. You can see the cameras inside your house from wherever you are, simply because everything is connected to the internet. And the downside of that is when most people buy these products, they set them up and these products come with default passwords, 1234, or a variation of a very simple default password. They don't bother changing those passwords because that's the last thing on their mind. Again, security, privacy. You want something that would tell you what's going on in your fridge at every point in time so that you can order milk when your milk is running low. That fridge
Mhm.
is, of course, connected to the internet, which is linked to your phone. You didn't set up that connection properly. Keyword, the connection. How it's connecting to your phone, it's based on a default security setting that is maybe visible to someone, or maybe that product model itself. There is a vulnerability that allows a threat actor to see inside your fridge from
Mhm.
anywhere, and you don't pay attention to the security of that internet connected fridge. So now a threat actor knows that the model version of this particular fridge is vulnerable to something. You have the same fridge, but you're not paying attention to that since you bought it. So a threat actor now goes and runs some exploits on every possible fridge that has that vulnerability that is connected to the internet. So because your fridge is also connected to your home Wi-Fi, and the vulnerability on that product is your fridge is affected by it. So now someone can basically jump into your home Wi-Fi because of a vulnerability on a product you bought that you didn't pay attention to the security of that product since the day you bought it. It's kind of like
Mhm.
how all these phone companies come out with updates to the operating system and they tell you to install the updates, not because they feel like releasing an update. All those updates address a security vulnerability. So guess what? The internet connected fridge in your kitchen, you haven't updated it since you bought it because that's the last
Mhm.
thing on your mind. You just want something that would tell you when you need to buy milk and eggs and so on. So now your security is at risk, your privacy is at risk because you bought something that is connected to the internet that really doesn't need to be connected to the internet. Why would you need your
Yeah.
washing machine to be connected to the internet? Why would you need your microwave to be connected to the internet? Why would you need to wear an Apple Watch that is connected to your Bluetooth and your Wi-Fi, and you don't even update your Apple Watch operating system, which you should be doing, but you have it because you want to track your steps so that you can know when to stand up during the day, so that you don't sit for too long and so on. All of these things, like I started discussing earlier, put our security at risk, put our privacy at risk, but they are marketed to us as something that would make our lives easier, as something that would make you know when to order milk in your fridge, which you can do by physically opening your fridge and look at where your milk is. But maybe that's just
Yeah.
me and how I think about all these things. So
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. I've recently read there's a case where there was a smart thermometer in a fish tank at a casino in Vegas, and
yep,
the thermometer was a source of
the
I can't remember
cyber
if it was
attack.
a cyber attack or
Yep.
something. And so, you know, if you kind of think about that in the context of everything, uh, these appliances, these all these different smart devices, they're kind of it's like think of almost like a vehicle or Trojan horse for threat actors because no one thinks of that their fridge or their thermometer or their other items or something are going to have any sort of
Yep.
risk attached to them because why would a threat actor care about my fridge, you know? uh,
Yeah.
uh, and so I'm kind of curious, what other have you cases that have you heard of, or you know, stories that kind of come to mind?
Yeah, there are cases where in a school district in a state in the US, teachers have iPads, teachers have computers in classrooms to, show the kids something on the TV. Most schools now have TVs that are connected to the internet. The teacher's laptop or computer is connected to the TV. Everything is connected to the school Wi-Fi. Some of the schools don't update the operating systems on the teachers' computers. They should. Maybe the principal sends something out and tells the teachers to install the updates. Well, the principal is not going to track which teacher is installing which updates. Some of these teachers don't even know how to go about installing the updates. Some operating systems make it easy. It tells you, okay, there's an update pending. Would you like to install it now in 4 hours or overnight? Just make sure the computer is connected to the internet, whether it's powered on or off, the update is going to install. Some teachers click no because they're in the middle of something and then the update never gets installed for whatever reason. The school districts have IT departments. They don't necessarily enforce all these updates to be installed and so on. So all of this to say that there is a school district in a state in the US where threat actors found vulnerabilities online. There is a website called Shodan. It basically lists IP addresses and a lot of other internet infrastructure that are exposed to the internet and they shouldn't necessarily be exposed to the internet. So it's possible to go online and see what is attackable, basically. So that's how one of the computers in this school district got attacked because there was a port on an IP that was left open and they were able to get into the school district. If you've ever heard about ransomware attacks on school districts in the US, there was a time when it was so rampant. It's still rampant now. It still happens almost every week. And around those 2022, 2023, when all those ransomware attacks were happening, it was because of this lax security that has affected all these school districts, not just one school, entire school districts within states, sometimes multiple school districts in the same state get attacked by ransomware, especially during COVID, because most of the school districts were focused on the ability to, either continue school online or migrate all their in-class teaching and curriculum to online learning and so on, purchasing laptops and iPads to give to the students so that they can learn from home. So they were not necessarily paying attention to the security of the computers inside the schools. So all of this happened and ransomware attacks left and right. And it was so lucrative because school districts have all this data on students and their families, and someone can steal all those data and then just go sell it on the dark web. And they can use these children's social security numbers to open up credit cards and apply for loans. And these are kids with zero credits, kids in
Yeah,
school. But then
yeah,
someone find a database of social security numbers of first and second grade kids, and they sell it on the dark web. And now these kids have loans in their names, simply because a school district did not pay attention to the security of the computers inside the classrooms. And that's just one example. There are examples in healthcare. There are examples in even manufacturing companies. There are examples in, think of any industry, any sector. Even
Mhm.
government employees have been affected by ransomware because they don't have the fundamental practices of what they should and shouldn't do with their phones and their laptops, and someone connects with Wi-Fi in a federal building, and so on and so on and so forth. So
Mhm.
long story short, there are so many examples. The school district one was the one that comes to mind because it was just so rampant. You mentioned the
Mhm.
casino example earlier. That's another vector because
Mhm.
most casinos, I mean, they pay attention to physical security. You can't just come in and gamble and cheat and run away
Mhm.
with our money. There are thousands of cameras inside a casino. But guess what? They're not paying attention to their cyber
Mhm.
security, which is why a
Mhm.
fish tank connected to the internet was used as a major vector of a ransomware attack. So that's just one of the examples of major cyber attacks that happened because of one iPad, one phone, one laptop in
Mhm.
a classroom, and so on.
Yeah, it's like the fish tank. It makes me. It reminds me of dentist office, and and all
Yeah.
times I'm thinking of all just how everything just seems more and more interconnected, and the breaches and cyber attacks just seem to be growing. And you mentioned the apps and people sticking with the default passwords to their Wi-Fi.
Yep.
Um, and I'm thinking of like what other things like I guess overlooked gaps that or maybe people don't think of because I wouldn't have, in years past I wouldn't have thought, oh, my thermometer is gonna put me at risk or my smart fridge. But
Yeah.
um, you know, I guess I'm thinking of if you're when you're looking at software or apps or something on in a store, it'll say like, oh, this is HIPAA compliant or this complies with that law in that law. Um, I think maybe people don't realize that there's some it's not just automatic. You have to configure it correctly or something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, in January of this year, HIPAA came out with this new security rule. I think it was a notice of proposed rulemaking, NPRM. And what the new rule proposes is the ability to have mandatory MFA. So multi-factor authentication MFA basically means if I enter my username and password, and I have to enter something else apart from my password before I can access my accounts, before I can access the computer and so on. So this new HIPAA rule is saying now MFA has to be mandatory. It wasn't mandatory before. Most people, most companies and hospitals basically say, okay, username and password, and you log into your medical records. No. Another thing is the new rule is proposing is annual technical inventories, 24-hour vendor incident notice, which is if the first big change since 2013. We're in 2025. 12 years ago was the last
Mhm.
big change to the HIPAA security rule. HIPAA is most people are not familiar with HIPAA because, I mean, unless you work in healthcare, it's the security. How do I even describe it? It basically mandates everything about healthcare security. Let's just put it that way. The last major change to HIPAA was 12 years ago. Now, this new rule that says mandatory MFA, I feel like it's one of the things that nationally security is on the back burner. How much more individuals? Why should it take that long before we can realize, oh, wait, we need to pay attention to, usernames and passwords. Okay, how
Mhm.
about add an additional code? How about set something up on your computer to be able to say that if someone enters my password mistakenly or they hacked me, yes, they shouldn't still be able to get into that account. So
Yeah.
the security rule overhaul is a big step in that direction. At least something is being done. In Europe, there is GDPR, and now there are new rules regarding AI. And Europe is always the first to start these things, and then other continents, other countries kind of copy them. One thing I was going to mention was the fact that, to tie back to the security and Internet of Things, I have friends in the military who deploy, and they have all these smartwatches and fitness trackers. And there was one time where I think it was in the news, a nation state threat actor was able to figure out where US military service members were deployed. It wasn't public, but they figured it out because they saw all this fitness data. Some people would just start running at 4 a.m., which is typical of, military service members. They get some workout in before they start their day. And that's how they were able to put two and two together, saying, this group of people that run 3 miles before sunrise, let's take an additional look. And then they added that to some other data, and then they were able to figure out, hmm, there are some US service members here, and maybe they shouldn't have known that. Who knows? Anyway, security is
Yeah.
something that we don't necessarily pay attention to. It took 13 years or 12 years for an
Mhm.
entire body that is in charge of healthcare privacy to say that, okay, let's pay attention to technical inventories. Let's mandate vendors to report an incident within 24 hours. So think about how many vendors have gotten away with
Yeah.
not reporting something that happened because there was no law that says you have to report this within one day. So, and yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
could go on and
Well, and
on.
at the speed of technology too.
Yep.
Think of how much things have changed even just in the past decade, 15 years. It's crazy. And now we have AI and just it's pretty mind-blowing. And so
Yeah.
so if you were to think about the, privacy, security recommendations and things like that, um, and thinking of like how technology is today and kind of where things are going, would you how how do they measure up to where threat actors are and how the speed that they're working? Like how far are we behind? Are we about equal as far as good versus bad?
I think with every system that is a system of systems, aka the internet, the people that are using it for bad stuff are always going to be ahead, because just like there is this saying, it takes less time to break something than to fix it. A very good example most people can relate to is a house. It takes less time to get a house messy than to actually clean and arrange and put things where they're supposed to be. And within 1 hour, literally 1 hour, depending on if you have kids or not, you literally just arrange this place and it's all scattered again and so on. So a system of system, a house, a big company, even a small company, the entire internet, it takes less time to break it. It takes
Hmm.
less time for a threat actor to figure out gaps within that system and exploit those gaps than to actually plug those gaps and make sure that everyone in that system is doing what they should be doing to make sure that security is top notch. So it takes way less time for a hack to happen or a
Yeah.
vulnerability to be exploited. And the thing with systems of systems is there are vulnerabilities that go undetected for years, simply
Hmm.
because it's a system that is made up of subsystems. The simpler something is, the less likely it is to get to break. We're speaking before we started recording about how I've had a very simple microphone for 4 years. And the day I start to maybe buy a fancy microphone and so on, and all this equipment set up, that's the day the things would start breaking in rapid succession.
Yeah.
So we are always going to be behind in cybersecurity, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just
Hmm.
identifying and realizing what we are dealing with. We're dealing with a system of systems of systems. Let me just even expand it to 3 levels. So someone is always going to find a vulnerability in a smart device. Someone is always going to find a vulnerability in something I put in my front lawn to tell me when I need to water my grass. Because
Yeah.
The crazy things people come up with. Something
Yeah.
is gonna be vulnerable in a fish tank that is connected to the internet that would lead to millions of dollars in losses for a casino in Las Vegas, and so on and so forth. So reducing the attack surface, which is something you brought up before we started recording, is what is actually going to make us less likely to become victims to cyber
Yeah.
attacks. So what does that
Yeah.
look like? It looks like an entire organization knowing how many laptops they have, which is possible. It's not impossible. It's just going to take time. It's probably going to take you to hire someone to actually do that work for you, because many companies, the bigger you are, the less likely you are to know how many laptops you have. If it's a
Hmm.
small mom and pop shop, okay, we have 3 laptops, one in the front
Hmm.
office, one in the back office, and one we use to order coffee. Whatever it is, you know exactly how many laptops you have. Big organizations, I can guarantee you, no large organization, Facebook, Apple, Google, they don't know how many laptops they have. Maybe they do, but it took them years to figure it out. And each of those laptops, I can guarantee you again, are not running the latest operating system, which
Yeah.
is that right there is an attack surface. So,
Yeah.
so
Well, they
this,
come out so often too. It's, if
yeah,
you don't have them set up to install automatically, I think it just really
yeah. Yeah.
uh
And the more people you have in an organization, the more likely you are for someone to do something wrong, either by mistake or even on purpose. Because
mhm,
there's something known as insider threat. Someone has a gambling problem and someone approaches them on Reddit, on a forum on Reddit, and saying, well, sorry about your problems. I actually know a guy that knows a guy that can make your problems go away. Take his
mhm,
number and talk to him. And then they talk to the guy that knows the guy, and then they were like, "Oh, well, you work in this company. Maybe we could work something out. You just send me a document. That's it.
mhm.
I'm not asking you to steal anything. Just email me a document to this particular email, and you
Yeah.
get your gambling debts taken care of." That happens
Mm.
every day,
Yeah.
simply because
Yeah.
that's a risk factor. That's a attack surface. The human is now the attack surface. The person's laptop is updated. The person is not stealing anything physically. Someone knows about their gambling problem. Now they are approaching them to just forward it an Excel spreadsheet. That's all I'm asking you to do. You don't even need to
Yeah.
be the one to do it. Just tell me where to go, and then I would send the email to the person that would give me the document, and tons
Yeah.
of examples of that. Reducing your attack surface makes you less likely to become a victim of a
Yeah.
system of systems, and so
Yeah.
on and so forth. So
Yeah, and I think a lot of people maybe they don't want to think about it, maybe it stresses them out, or it's something they underestimate, like how easy it is maybe for actors to do what they do, or oh, I'm a small office, no one cares about me. I have, there's 4 doctors who work here. I'm not lucrative for actors. Like that's a myth that makes, they're if people aren't taking steps to, protect themselves or just even thinking about it, all those little things, I it's it's not like you want to think like every moment of your life, like, oh, I'm putting
yeah,
myself at risk, but at least, keeping on top of it, reading the news and kind of what the latest,
yeah,
if there's something new that happened as far as like ransomware attacks, or they're always changing tactics. So,
yeah.
um, like, what would you say is like out of different situations that as you're reading the headlines with, cyber attacks and breaches, whatever it applies to, like has kind of like surprised you, or like how are you seeing things change as far as like with AI and all the different technology that people are implementing these days?
I think just like with every technological innovation and technological advancements, there is always going to be the good side and the bad side and the unintended consequences. And what I mean by that is someone is going to create an AI tool that would make it easy to determine the onset of a cold. And I mean onset of a cold, not when my throat starts to get itchy and scratchy, not when I start to feel the headache that wouldn't go away. No, the onset of a cold from maybe how my heart rate is starting to change from the baseline because I have a device I wear on my wrist and it's detecting my blood oxygen levels, and it can actually distinguish from, okay, you're stressed to there is a cold coming on. So maybe that type of AI tool exists or not, but I see something like that in the news, and I'm thinking, I guess maybe by training, um, thinking from a skeptical point of view, I'm thinking from a threat actor point of view, how can I find vulnerabilities in this little device that could tell 3 days in advance that I'm going to have a cold on Sunday and it's telling me on Thursday? How can I find a way to exploit a vulnerability in that little AI tool and then maybe hack the person's data on the phone it's connected to, and so on and so forth? How can I use an AI tool that is assessing my child's performance in school, in elementary school, and telling the parents and the teachers, for this particular child, pay attention to reading or math or whatever the kids is supposed to pay attention to? How can I hack that system and steal a bunch of other data that is not necessarily have anything to do with the school, the teacher, the kid, the parent, and so on? Long story short, there's going to be a lot of unintended consequences in, and that's just AI as an example. Even technological advancements like, okay, connected cars. Now there are cars that tell you when to buy gas and which gas station to buy gas from because of how well
Yeah.
you drive or how many times you drive per week. And if you don't even need to buy gas for the next 2 weeks, because even with this amount of gas in your car, and they know where you go and they can predict where you're going to go next because it's also connected to your calendar and they see all your difference. And all of that is going to be marketed as an AI tool that would simplify your commute, that would make
Mhm.
you manage your time perfectly. But I'm thinking like a third actor saying, now I see that your phone and your calendar and your car and your gas levels are connected. Well, if it can predict the places you go, and maybe you have something pending on family court and you do the drop off with your ex and the kid and so on and so forth. Now I'm thinking dark thoughts, right? All of that is possible as an unintended consequence of someone connecting their car to their calendar, to their gas station, and so on. Now you have a 7-Eleven account. The app on your phone is telling you when to get gas because your car. Long story short, it's not going to take too long because I just came up with this scenario in my head. Think about the people that are paid to come up with these scenarios in their head. People that wear military uniforms and they go to work every day looking for devices that are vulnerable on the internet, looking for which countries have military service members deployed where and when.
Mhm.
And it becomes not too far-fetched to say that,
Mhm.
well, the more devices are connected globally, the higher the likelihood of something going wrong, and a family now has to deal with significant privacy issues because no one knew that their child was seeing a therapist. Now,
Yeah.
whole world knows that their child is seeing a therapist because of something that was connected from the school to the doctor's
Yeah.
office to the iPad at home.
Yeah. Yeah, it all comes together and like, I think that, people are aware like, oh, I shouldn't post if I'm going to leave on vacation, but a lot of people do. But there's a lot of, burglars who keeping an eye on social media as well. And, it says, oh, this family's out of town. Well, that's great. And same thing kind of goes, you know, I I can't remember. There's like a healthcare organization that had said they published on their website, hey, we're changing our system, blah blah blah, and there's like a couple different things that they were kind of announcing to make the inform the patients. And then I'm thinking, if I were a threat actor, that would be a perfect time to uh, target this particular company. So I'm thinking kind of when people are going about their day, like, and they want to reduce their risk or their vulnerabilities in every way, but they have so many devices and so many different things, and they don't really know where to start. Like, what would you suggest is a good starting point, or what devices or things should they focus on first? Because you got your smartwatch, you got your laptop, iPad, phone, router, whatever. But
Yeah.
what are the top ones that you would suggest starting with?
Yeah, similar to spring cleaning. I guess not, I don't want to say most people do spring cleaning because not everyone does spring cleaning. Similar to spring cleaning, start with things you don't use often and then maybe take them to Goodwill or just, give them away. Look at every device in your house, phone, iPad. If it's an old phone, there is no reason that old phone should still be connected to Wi-Fi. Because think about it, most phones, if you don't use a SIM on the phone anymore, you technically can still connect to Wi-Fi. And maybe you still use that phone. There's no longer any SIM inside that phone, but you still use it every now and then to sign into Instagram or sign into Facebook because you don't want to use your main phone because you forgot your Instagram password. So it's still on the old phone, and then you still use your old phone to check Instagram anyway. There is no reason to still, if you're not going to update the operating system on that old phone, do not connect it to Wi-Fi. I cannot harp this in because a lot of people think, well, there's nothing a threat actor can steal from me anyway. I'm a boring person.
Yeah,
There's
I hear that a lot.
yeah, there's no
I'm
money in
like,
my
oh,
bank
come on.
account. My
Yeah,
credit score is too low. They're not going to be able to open a credit card account on it anyway. But guess what? In aggregation,
yeah,
your data could be part of a group of 50,000 other credit card numbers and social security numbers that someone is going to sell to somebody somewhere. And even if there is nothing that can be stolen from you, you cannot predict how someone is going to jump from one device to another device. And then before you know it, they're even hanging out in your Wi-Fi so that the
yeah,
next computer you connect that has your health records, now they can simply jump into that device and just steal everything. There's something known as wiper, there's something known as stealer malware.
mhm,
It's malware that is installed on a device and quietly steals every password you use on that device. Even if
yeah.
you change the password, it's just going to steal them
Oh, wow.
and send it to the attacker. So people that have one device compromised, but guess what? 2 weeks later, they log in into their doctor's office, my chart, for example, because the malware was already present on that phone. There is a new login and a new password. The malware is capturing that new login and password to the attacker. The attacker
Mhm.
looks at it and says, this is new. Let's see what's going on here. Guess what? It's the notes from your last therapy session.
Yeah,
It's your medical records. Maybe you're trying to get pregnant and all those sensitive
yeah,
data that comes with that. It's a medical record of a relative that is in a mental health facility that you don't necessarily want to be made public.
yeah,
A malware got on your device when you thought you were boring. It's been
yeah,
quiet the whole time. You didn't update your operating system. Now you log in into a new system, a new platform. Maybe you came into some inheritance and you log in into an online banking account. Now this threat actor can see that, well, this is a new login on this device. Let's see what's going on. There's some new money here. Let's see what we can do with that. So
yeah,
when you think you were a boring person, the malware came in and everything else after that, it's up for grabs. So I cannot stress it enough. If it's any device you're not using, disconnect it from the internet, give it away, log out, wipe the device.
yeah,
If there is any camera that is just figure out how to update or change the default password. You buy a fancy fridge, you buy a fancy microwave, congratulations, but change the password that came with
yeah,
that appliance. Even your Wi-Fi router, the password that comes with your Wi-Fi router that is on the little sticker in the back of the router, Change that
Mhm.
password. It is possible to change your Wi-Fi router password. The password you give to guests when they
Yeah.
come over to your house and everyone connects to
Yeah.
your Wi-Fi. There is nothing that stops you from changing that password every month, every 2 months, every 3 months. If you're someone like me, change it as often as you want to. There's something called network segmentation. You have the
Mhm.
Wi-Fi. Most Wi-Fi companies won't tell you this because it doesn't exactly help them in monitoring your
Yeah.
traffic. You can segment your Wi-Fi, home Wi-Fi, into as many segments as possible. You want all the
Oh, that's right.
TVs on these segments. You want all the phones on this segment. You want all the laptops on these other segments. You want all the cameras in your house, in your apartment on these other segments. Whatever works for you, you want to give your guest the password of another segment. Because if you've ever gone to a coffee shop and you ask for the Wi-Fi password, chances are they're going to give you the one they give to guests,
Yeah.
not the one that they use in the back office where all the POS terminals are on and so on. Even if you search for Wi-Fi, you would see maybe a hotel Wi-Fi. There is a hotel front desk, and there is a Wi-Fi that hotel guests use, and
Yeah.
there is a Wi-Fi for something else. That's called Wi-Fi segmentation. You can
Mhm.
totally do that at home so that
Yeah.
every segment has different passwords. That is another step to keep yourself safe. So a
Yeah.
lot of people don't realize, well, threat actors can hack your phone or they can hack your entire Wi-Fi and maybe you see something connected and you don't know what it is. It's most likely a, foreign, yeah. So not to scare
Yeah.
anyone,
Yeah.
these are the simple things. Even going on Google, how can I make myself secure online? Just type that in, see what Google
Yeah.
comes back with, and just go from there. So it doesn't even have
Yeah.
to be someone like me or Mel telling you, well, pay
Yeah.
attention to your Wi-Fi security because no, don't take my word for
Baby
it.
baby steps at least, you know. And I'm curious, like, so if I'm walking around and my device is like looking for a Wi-Fi to connect, like if I have connected to my home Wi-Fi, maybe a Bluetooth speaker, I leave my house, but I don't turn off the searching for Wi-Fi and the searching for Bluetooth. Would you say that's a makes me my phone or my devices and things more vulnerable if like all those rather than the hardwired and you know, if you're in an airport and you have it searching for Bluetooth and you're not
Yeah.
actually connected to anything, or if you are, can somebody kind of override that
Yep.
Bluetooth
100%. Again, not to sound like a doom and gloom preacher, but there is this thing called evil twin attacks. So evil twin, it's self-explanatory. Someone creates an evil twin of a Wi-Fi access point and they name it very similar or even the same name as a known Wi-Fi access point. So for example, Starbucks. Starbucks Wi-Fi has this very specific way they name their Wi-Fi. So if someone, okay, this Starbucks has a lot of people going in and out every day, every week, and then someone comes and parks in the parking lot right outside of Starbucks, and they set up this evil twin
connection.
and they name it very similar to this Starbucks Wi-Fi access point. So that people that are coming in, and if you've been to that coffee shop before, your phone just connects automatically because, okay, it
Hmm.
remembers you've been here before. Again, ease of use, ease of access makes security and privacy like go down.
Yeah.
So you're connecting to Wi-Fi because you've been there before, and someone sets up a fake evil twin and it just connects to that evil twin. So everything you do on your phone, this person can now see because they created a fake access point similar to the one you've connected to before. And then all your online transactions, all your communications with your doctor's office, literally everything you do on that public Wi-Fi can now be seen by this threat actor in the parking lot because of the evil twin attack. So every smartphone has this option that says forget this Wi-Fi. Like don't remember it. I want to log in again the next time I come. I want to enter the Wi-Fi name and the password, however long the password is, every single time I come back. That's one way to limit your exposure to those types of attacks. So a lot of people don't realize that is something that happens quite often. If you've ever been to a stadium and maybe some of the restaurants in the stadium have their own little Wi-Fi's and you don't know who exactly is at the game with you and something is in their pocket and they're just vacuuming up everybody's internet traffic because they named their
Yeah.
fake evil twin router the same name as one of the restaurants in the stadium, and same thing with an airport. And just think of any public location that has a lot of people connecting daily. Those are
Mhm.
the ripe examples of something a threat actor can use for evil twin attacks. So teach your phone to forget Wi-Fi. Just you can even do it manually. Turn off your Bluetooth if you're not using it. What else? Don't connect
Yeah,
to
it
it.
drains your battery anyway. So if
Yeah.
it's if protecting yourself isn't enough incentive, save your battery then.
Yep. Yep.
Uh,
So don't do any sensitive transactions on a public Wi-Fi because you never know when you are connecting to the evil twin of that public Wi-Fi. So
mhm.
it's just one of those, once it becomes a habit, then
Yeah.
it's security should be a habit. Just like you have the habit of locking your car when you park and you go inside a building, you wouldn't park overnight, even in your apartment or your house, without locking your car. That's a habit. You wouldn't get into your car and start driving without putting your seatbelt on. That's a habit. So these security habits would, in the long run, help to not get
Mhm.
hacked and not get attacked. So yeah.
And it's when we have these conversations, it feels like, oh, I'm trying to make everyone paranoid, or I'm paranoid or something. But with all the tools and technology and the way things are going, it's not something you can just kind of forget about. Like, oh,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. You're just you're
Yeah.
being a doomsdayer or whatever.
Even parents that have kids and the kids have iPads or they have a phone that the kids use, when was the last time you updated the operating system on that iPad or that phone? When was the last time you even went through all the apps? Because some kids outgrow certain apps at certain points in time. If an app is not being used anymore, then just take it off the phone, take it off the iPad. Sometimes apps collect data that it shouldn't be collecting, going back to the developers of those apps, and they're using it for advertising, or in worst case scenario, a threat actor has taken over that app from the
Mm,
developer. Because that actually happens. Many people don't realize this. An app developer has a threat actor on their developer account. The developer is still managing the app. But guess what? A threat actor also has access to the developer's account. So all the traffic data that the developer is saying, well, 3 million people are using my app in Kansas and then another 3 million in California. And they see all those data and they use it for advertising and so on. Well, a threat actor is quietly in that developer's account, seeing the exact same data per day, per hour, per minute that the developer is seeing. So try to, remove yourself from that toxic equation by
mm,
removing apps that you no longer use. Because people think most apps are secure because, well, it's on the App Store. The
yeah.
developer should be a security conscious person. That's all well and good. Just like humans get hacked, developers, not like developers are not humans, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Developers themselves also get
Mm,
hacked. And if I'm a hacker and I get access to a developer's account and I see millions of people's data, I
mhm.
wouldn't want the developer to know that I'm inside their account. I would just
Yeah.
listen quietly and just vacuum
Yeah.
people's data as they come in. So
Yeah.
if there's an even that goes way beyond kids, iPads, and so on. Even adults, I tell people all the time, if I haven't used an app in 30 days, chances are I'm not going to use that app in the next 30 days.
Mhm.
I'm removing it from my phone. The last time I was telling you, now I have 57 apps on my phone, and you're like, way to go.
Yeah. I think I still have 5 or 6. I think I might break the record for the least number of apps.
Yep,
Uh,
yep. So,
yeah. Well, and I think of, as a developer, is a lot, especially if they're developing apps for multiple companies that maybe they take pieces from those kits, like
Yep.
the little developer libraries where,
Yep.
somebody contributed to this and here, you should add this to your app and
Yeah.
then a lot of people do. And so that, malware, whatever, it gets infected on a lot of things. Um, so if you have an app that had malware or something that was on your phone or iPad or something, and you install it, and then you later on delete that, is that malware deleted with the app, or is it living in your phone in the other apps now, or is that just kind of a case by case?
So there is something called lateral movement by malware and everything else that is up to no good on your phone. The point of lateral movement is a malware gets on a device through one way. That malware wants to move around as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, because chances are how they got in could be locked down almost immediately. Maybe there's something on that phone that is kind of like an immunity network. Like, okay, a phishing email comes in, this email link is bad. Some phones actually disables the ability to click on a link that comes in from a text message. If for any reason the malware is sophisticated enough to see that, well, this malware is going to come in by text message, as soon as the text get delivered, spread around as quickly as possible. In that case, if a malware comes in through an app and you delete the app, chances are, if it's a very sophisticated malware, by the time you're deleting the app, the malware is already somewhere else in your phone. So one way to, I guess, figure that out is, again, deleting apps you no longer use. There is something known as memory-based attacks, and these
Mhm.
are attacks where it's fileless, meaning there is no actual file. It's basically corrupting the memory of your device. How you can figure that out is restarting your device at least once a day. So that way, if
Mhm.
there's anything in your phone's memory,
Mhm.
it's like when you sleep and you wake up, your brain clears itself of, all the gunk from during the day.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to that, but not exactly. But restarting a device at least once a day takes care of those types of malware
Mhm.
that basically lives in the phone's memory. There is no traces of them as a physical file. There is
Mhm.
nothing to say that, well, this thing, I don't know what it is. It could be malware. I delete it. So restarting a device, even computers, restart your computer at least once a day. I have my devices timed to restart around 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m. every day. So that works for me because, I mean, that's around when I wake up anyway. My phone is restarting, so it's not affecting, like I'm not in the middle of a phone call or in the middle of an email or something. That way, it restarts every day. I have good security hygiene anyway. I don't click on stuff I'm not supposed to be clicking on. If I'm not familiar with somebody, I'm not clicking on anything. So on that end, I'm at least security conscious, but still a layered defense is restart my phone every day, restart my computer, restart my
Mhm.
iPad, restart even the smart TVs. There is,
Yeah.
if you go to a setting, it says restart this TV. That's another way to even do that because who knows what kind of malware is affecting TVs these days. So
Yeah.
sometimes deleting an app may not, because lateral movements, the malware wants
Yeah.
to spread as quickly and as soon as possible. So, and on top of all of that, just practice good security hygiene. Don't go download your favorite movie from a free website because nothing is free. Maybe people don't realize that by now. That
Yeah.
free movie
That's a great
episode,
point.
TV show episode, you think it's free, but the file has been corrupted with malware. So you're
Yeah.
downloading, you're watching, you're happy, you're not having to pay for it or go to the movies to watch. But guess what? Your passwords on that laptop, on that phone, on that iPad just got stolen to wherever that TV show came from. So
Yeah. So even if it's not infected by some sort of ransomware, it's also that's the
yeah,
those are tend
it's
to be
the
the
stealer
the biggest
malware.
data harvesters too,
Yeah, yeah, they're
which
stealing.
expands your footprint.
Yep, they're
Yeah.
stealing everything on your computer, on your iPad, all the passwords you've stored on your browser. So that next time you log into Walmart, you don't have to enter your password. Next time you log into DoorDash, you don't have to enter your password. All those things have been stolen because you wanted to watch the latest episode of Game of Thrones without having to pay for it.
Yeah. And don't use your work email for your
Yep.
Facebook and for your Target account and
Yep.
all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, well, I want to be mindful of your time. Is there anything like last things that you would want to share with everyone that could help them stay secure, private, protect themselves, or tips as far as keeping up on top of this stuff?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that security should be a habit because just like you wouldn't play with your physical security, you wouldn't put yourself and your family at risk getting on the highway without using your seatbelt. There are so many things because it's mostly abstract. People don't necessarily pay attention to cybersecurity. They think, well, if my money is still in my bank account after my paycheck drops, then that means no one has hacked me yet. If my pictures that I take in the bathroom are not being shared on Facebook, then that means no one has hacked my phone yet.
Mhm.
If all the conversations I have with my therapist is not floating on Facebook somewhere, then that means my medical records are still locked down. No, it's quite likely that your social security number has been sold and resold 5, 10 times, and you have no idea. And someone is simply waiting until your credit gets up to a decent amount, and then they open that first credit card account in your name. Because another thing is
Even kids' names if you don't lock your kids'
exactly,
credit down,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. So there was a case I worked on in Orlando, Florida. Someone didn't realize their credit card, their social security number had been stolen, and around the time they started working on their credit score, and then it was, getting up there, they got an alert from one of the credit card monitoring firms saying someone opened a line of credit in their name in somewhere in Maryland. This person lives in Orlando, Florida. They've never been to Maryland. They don't know anyone in Maryland. If anything, their family lives in California. So they
Yeah.
were like, Maryland? I don't know anyone in Maryland. Well, guess what? It's the same social security number, a different name,
Hmm.
but the same social
Well,
security number. So that means this their social security number was part of a data breach. Someone did a check, however they did the check, and they were like, oh, this credit is too low. We can't use it now. We're going to check back in 2 years because that's actually something these hackers do. They check the soft pulls,
yeah.
and you can actually set up and the ones that you can check on an app, and it's like you can check every day and it's not going to ding your record. That's how they were checking all these social security numbers they stole. And once they started seeing the ones that were like, okay, seven something or six something,
Hmm.
they're like, okay, now we can start messing with these social security numbers. That was what happened in this lady's case. They had a social
Yeah.
security number for a while. She was working on a social security credit score. Once it got to that high level, then they immediately opened a credit line of account and so on. So
No.
it's
Oh,
it yeah, it should be a habit. Security should be
yeah.
a habit. You wouldn't mess
Yeah.
with your children's social security numbers. You wouldn't mess with your own social security number. Just do things that would reduce your risk at every point in time. So that's the
Yeah.
one takeaway. I mean, every podcast, every website would tell you, okay, do these three things, do these four things. Well, I would tell you, make it a habit. The
Yeah.
same way you have a habit of not putting yourself at risk, don't
Yeah.
go out at night in a new city that you're not familiar with, in a new
Mhm.
part of town that you're not familiar with. Well, that's a habit, right? You've learned it from however how old you were when you learned that. Don't talk to strangers. Well, do not talk to strangers online either. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and don't be intimidated by it too. Just take even a little step every day or every week
yep.
or something, just to kind of, because like it's something everyone has to be involved in. It's not just
Yeah.
your IT person's job to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for being part of this, and thanks
Always,
everyone.
always a
Uh,
pleasure to talk to you.